Okay, welcome everyone to this final plenary on protest politics and parliament. How can we stop Starmer? My name is Faizi Ismail. I'm a member of Counterfire. I'm a lecturer at Goldsmiths. We have a brilliant panel for you this afternoon. Yasmin Adam, Almas Razakazi, Louise Regan and Chris Nynam. I will introduce each of them in turn. They'll speak for about 7 or 8 minutes. I should say that Almas has to go at 4 o'clock, so she will dash out at 4. But before we begin this session, I just wanted to invite 2 students from SOAS, Vinny and Rishi. One of them will speak just for a couple of minutes to tell you about a very important campaign to defend Yasmine Adam, who's been essentially victimized by SOAS management over her pro-Palestine activity. She was a leader in the encampment a few months ago, and they'll tell you about this. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Rishi, this is Vinny. We're here from the SOAS Liberated Zone. We just wanted to say that on Tuesday at 4 p.m. On Mallet Street, there will be a rally to mark the first year of the SOAS Liberated Zone, a year of resistance, a year of steadfastness. Please join us in commemorating our stances as students against genocide. And also, I want to talk about our dear friend Haya. She's at risk of expulsion after being on an open suspension for the past year by the university. She's been subject to multiple disciplinaries. The current one, she still hasn't had the verdict on, even though she was meant to get it at least a week ago. This is a punishment by the university for her stance against genocide. Please support us in defending Haya, sign the petition, join the email campaign, and come out on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinny and Rishi, and thanks for all the work on that campaign.
If anybody hasn't signed the petition, their petition
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, so first we'll hear from Yasmin Adam. Yasmin heads up the Media and Politics Department of the Muslim Association of Britain. She's been absolutely instrumental in mobilizing and organizing the mass demonstrations that we've seen over the past 18 months over Palestine. Yasmin.
This one?
I think they both
will.
Yeah,
Oh, sure. This one, sorry. Thanks. I would say instrumental is a bit of a strong word, but nevertheless, it's an honour to be here. Sure. It's an honour to be here and to join you all, and I briefly popped into this session before here, and again, it's an honour to be amongst some of the best of us and the best that this movement has seen. I'm here today, I guess, not to say anything new. I think we've heard, but nevertheless, I think such spaces are so important because it's important that we come together and we envision what society can be and what we should build towards. And what I'm here to remind you is every time we see the state in action, every time we're surprised at how violent the state is, I think we need to remind ourselves that this is exactly what it was built for. This is exactly the empire at work. This is exactly the rinsed and repeated tactics that it has used time and time again. The exact playbook of crushing dissent, of crushing civil liberties, in order for the government of the day's agenda, is the same tactic that we have seen since the empire was founded. So we shouldn't be surprised. And I don't say that to dishearten ourselves. I say that so that we have clarity in our struggle. We have clarity on where we are heading and what we need to confront. Because, and apologies if you've heard me speak before, a lot of this will be rinsed and repeated as well. But our fight isn't against symptoms. This idea of the state using increased surveillance powers, increased counterterrorism measures, increased legislation to stifle our right to protest. These are all symptoms that we are dealing with, symptoms of the empire, and whilst it's important to fight these, it's more important to fight the systems that enabled these powers to be allowed to continue. And again, likewise, when we see the genocide that is unfolding in Gaza, when we see tuition fees being used for the military complex, and when we see our pension funds equally being used for the military complex, again, this is the state in action, and therefore our fight has to be against the core systems that enable this to take place, because we would be absolutely doing a disservice to the movement and to future generations if all we did was tackle symptoms, and if all we did is, if we didn't translate the biggest anti-war movement this generation has ever seen into a society that is built differently, a society where the rich don't get richer off of genocides, and the poor are told, or the working class are also told, that there's no more money left, where profits of genocide aren't going to the 1%, and where the scapegoats aren't migrants and refugees and Muslim communities. And the genocide that we're seeing, I hope, has been a wake-up call to all of us. It's been a wake-up call to certainly myself and to those around me, but it allows us, I think one thing that's so important is that we have to, again, when we say rinsed and repeated, I repeat that a lot because it's so important that we learn about those that came before us. The counter-terrorism legislation that is currently being used on Palestine protesters was tried out and tested on Muslim communities off the back of 7/7. This isn't something new. The right to protest that we're seeing being stifled and crushed isn't something new. And whilst we saw the Conservative government call the marches hate marches, and we saw them use every name in the books, the Starmer government isn't any different. The Starmer government is the same system, but maybe a bit more quietly, if that. When we see what Donald Trump is doing, and we're all outraged at the idea that he's going to build a Middle East Riviera in Gaza, I'm sorry, but that's exactly what Biden was doing. Donald Trump's just a bit more arrogant, right? And so when I guess coming to the solution or the practical, we have to build our communities together, and we have to build communities that are intersected in our struggles. When we see all the different struggle, when we see the class struggle, when we see the migrant struggle, when we see the refugee struggle, the student struggle, and all of this as separate from one another, we do our movement a disservice. It is not normal that our tuition fees are used to fund BA systems. It's not normal that our pension funds and the rich are getting richer as the genocide continues to be live streamed, right? And so it's up to us to envision a better future and to present a better future that we know is possible, because part of the mechanism of the state and the system is to make us feel powerless, right? They target activists that are prominent within the movement because they want the rest of us to feel like there's nothing that we can do, right? What can we do to stop the genocide in Gaza, right? But we have never been more closer to the dismantlement of Zionism. We have never been more closer to the dismantlement of the systems that are enabling this genocide to continue. And what we're seeing is, in action, is a state in panic, a state that is realizing that the more it uses powers to try and crush our movement, the more it uses terrorism legislation, or the more it uses divisive language, it's not working anymore. Right? It's not. It was using those measures to try and reduce our struggle, to try and ostracize our struggle, and it's realizing slowly that that is not working. And what we'll continue to see is increase of that, because that exactly is what the empire was built for, right? That's exactly the state in play, right? This isn't a system that is broken. This is the system exactly doing what it was meant to be doing, and so. First of all, we can't be disheartened. We have built so far, again, like I said, the largest anti-genocide, anti-war movement, and we must continue to build on that. That's not going to continue based off goodwill. That's not going to continue to be built based off feeling sorry for what's happening in Gaza and based on like retweeting and stuff. No, we have to be actively continuing to build our movement, reaching out to every section of society, and educating people about how our struggle brings together, the struggle of Gaza brings together every single marginalised community in our society. It's our job to continue to reach out. It's our job not to be disheartened, and it's our job to continue to present society with an alternative that we know is possible, that we have never been so more close to. And that's what I want you to remember every time the state continues to crack down, because we know that's what's going to come, and we know that they're going to ramp up. And that is because it is crumbling, it is failing, and we are so close to a society that is better for future generations. And that's going to take hard work, that's not going to come easy, and it's going to take sacrifice, but we've come here through hard work, built on those generations that came before us. And so it's up to us, we owe it to future generations as well to continue that struggle, to build something bigger and better that they want to convince us is not possible. But we know as a movement that it is. And it's our job to continue to reach out to societies and communities that probably we haven't spoken to before, or probably we haven't reached into, and to translate the millions that we've seen marching through the streets of London into policies, into strategies, and into a better society that we know is possible. Thank you.